morning. Wow, I'm yelling at you. Welcome to Anthem. Great to be here today. My name is Scott. I'm just excited to be here with you. Would you do me a favor? Would you close your eyes for a second? When I sleep at night, I love to have it dark like that. The darker, the better. No distractions, nothing to catch my eye, just darkness to let me just kind of be enveloped by. You can go and open your eyes. I'm afraid if I go much longer, you'll be asleep. Make this 20 minutes really awkward if you fall asleep. But I love it dark when I sleep, but when I was a child, I didn't like darkness when I slept. I always tried to talk mom and dad into leaving the lights on. That wasn't going to happen. But I asked, can I at least have the door open? Even a crack. Just a little crack would take my dark room and allow me to see that there wasn't a monster in my closet. The light that came in the room would kind of drive away the fear that I had. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. As the light of the world, Jesus longs to drive away fear. He loves to come into your dark place and bring light that takes away whatever is wearing you down. Shame, fear, stuckness, and he wants to bring freedom. Today we're going to look at John chapter 7 and 8. We've been looking at a time when Jesus was at a thing called the Festival of Tabernacles. It was not a big thing for us, but it's a huge thing for them. The Festival of Tabernacles was a huge party. Everyone who was Jewish would show up back in Jerusalem at the temple for the Festival of Tabernacles. It was a big, big deal. One of the three festivals that you showed up, if you could, you got there because it was going to be a big party. It happened 4 days after Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Maybe you've heard of that. In the Day of Atonement, what the Jewish people would do is they would all come together and they'd ask God to forgive them their sins, the whole group. And they'd take the sins and they'd put it symbolically onto a goat. And they would have the goat be led out of the temple courts and into the wilderness. And as the goat went into the wilderness, it carried on it symbolically all the sins of the people. And it went away and never came back, symbolizing that the people had been forgiven. They called that goat a scapegoat. It was a picture of Jesus, who would come and take the sins of you and me and all the people and put it on himself and pay our debt. So 4 days after the Day of Atonement, where they become at one mint with God again, they would have this big festival called the Festival of Tabernacles. And at this, they would celebrate. And what they were doing was remembering how God had always taken care of them. They looked to the time in the wilderness when they were wandering for years and remembered that God fed them. God took care of them. God delivers them. Everyone is there. They've all traveled back into town, and Jesus is with them, we learned last week, teaching in the temple courts. And he is wowing the crowd. They're amazed at how much authority he has. He's an amazing teacher. He catches them off guard. They're like, oh, I can't believe that. That's true. That's what God's like. They loved his teaching. The religious leaders didn't love it so much, because they liked being in control, and he was taking their control. They weren't even sure that he really was who he said he was. They were convinced that he was not who he said he was. He said, I don't teach by my own authority. I teach by the authority of the one who sent me. Oh my gosh, he's saying he's from God. He's saying that he is. We've got to stop this guy. But they couldn't stop him. He teaches, and the crowd is wowed. The crowd is amazed. He teaches, and finally they come to a place where they say, we've got to stop this guy. But I have no idea how. But they realize, wait, Jesus is from Galilee. Guys, no prophet ever comes from Galilee. Let's just let him do his little thing. He's going to go away. Don't worry, it's going to get better. They had no idea. So it says that in 7 that they all went back to their homes and to sleep, and Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. That's where he went to sleep that night. It says that the next morning, as dawn appeared in the temple courts, Jesus was there. All the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. He had taught all day, frustrating the leaders, wowing the crowd, but frustrating the religious leaders. And now it's a new day, and he shows up early at dawn, ready to teach again. And they go, we've got to stop him. If we don't stop him, we're going to lose everything. They wanted to find a way to trap him. It says the teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They figured out how they could stop him. He's ready to teach. Let's bring a woman caught in adultery, put him before him, and trap him. That was their plan. It says they made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery." Now in your Bible, you might see an asterisk after this. For the next section, it has an asterisk or maybe some lines, and it says this text is not found in early manuscripts. This is a story that everyone knew, everyone heard. It was an oral tradition. They all knew that it happened, but some of the early manuscripts didn't put it in there, which means John may not have actually written this section. But all the later manuscripts say we've got to capture this story. Remember when that happened? That's got to be in there. And so all the later manuscripts have this story. It's something that really happened. They knew that it describes Jesus so well that they said, we've got to put it in here. And so here's the story. It's an incredible story. It'll catch you off guard. I'll try to keep it PG-13, best that I can, but it is a raw story. It says that the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, in an attempt to shut Jesus up, they bring in a woman caught in adultery. It may say in your translation, caught in the very act of adultery. They caught her in the act of adultery, and they made her stand before the group. They threw a blanket over her. They didn't let her get dressed and get all cleaned up. It was like cops, bad boys, bad boys. They threw it over. They brought her into the temple. They sat her down, and they said, Jesus, this woman was caught in the very act of adultery. Have you ever been caught? It's one thing to be accused. It's a whole nother thing to be caught. I hate being caught. My kids hate being caught. Thankfully, my kids get caught. I hope my kids always get caught because it's good for them. My son Jake is 20 years old. I forget that he's 20. Sometimes I think he's 7. Other times he's like 45. But this amazing young man is a kid who helped us start a church. And like Anthem, we were building a building, and we were doing a remodel of a building that we'd been getting ready to start meeting in. And Jake was there with us. My wife Kate and I were helping with we were doing ceiling tiles that day, getting the building ready. And other people were doing flooring. Everything was going on in this remodel. And my son Jake, who at the time was 6 years old, was with us. He was also there with his best friend Jay. Jay and Jake, both about 6 years old. And at 6 years old, they're just perfect angels. It's amazing what my kids do. I don't know what your kids do. My kids, they're not perfect angels. He was looking for something to do because when you're 6 years old, fun has to happen. He found fun. Jake is a party waiting to happen. He found his way out of the doors of the church, and we were on a busy street, and he found on the ground rocks. Now, when you're 6 years old, rocks are good for all kinds of things. Rocks are baseballs. Rocks are bombs. Rocks are things you can do all kinds of stuff with. And as a 6-year-old, he decided it'd be great, he and Jay, to find a way to see if they could throw the rocks all the way across the street. 2-way traffic, 4 lanes across, about good for a 6-year-old to do. We're inside working on ceiling tiles. I'm 5'6", challenged with height, so I'm on a ladder way up high trying to figure this thing out. And my kid's out on the street having a great time with rocks. He's there with his buddy Jay, who now plays football. He's a quarterback for the University of Oregon Ducks. He was only 6, and he was trying his best to get the ball across the street. They came running into us because they got caught. Dad, we hit a car. Okay, excuse me? We hit a car. We didn't mean to hit a car. you didn't mean to hit a car. Help me understand what I didn't mean to hit a car means. We were throwing rocks across the street, Dad. We were throwing it across, but the car got in the way. Like, oh, shoot. Pastor, great place to step in. There's a car that's made a U-turn chasing after my son. He's running in with Jay, and I've got to now explain to them how sorry I am that they've ruined your car. And so we're talking. I look at my friend Chris, who's with us. Chris is a CHP officer. I said, Chris, I need your help. Watch my son. Chris, you're a CHP officer. You can do this. Make my kid cry. He got caught. He was convicted. He was wrong. Make sure that he knows that this was a stupid thing to do. Tell him some stories. Make him cry. Make him feel bad, because I don't want him to get caught again. I want him to just be the bottom of the line for him. Gotcha, Scott. So I go out trying to explain to the family how sorry we are, how we're going to find a way to fix their car. Find out that actually the kids missed the cars. They meant to hit the car, but they missed the car, so that was a good thing. But he was saying, whose parents are these kids? I said, I don't know. I'll find that out right now. I'll make sure that we're really sorry. I walk back into the room and find Chris, and he's talking with my kid, and I expect to see my kid just crying, feeling so bad. He and Jay feeling brokenhearted. They'd thrown rocks and done what they knew was wrong, and my son is cracking up. He's just dying laughing. He and Jay are on the ground, grabbing their stomach, laughing. And I said, Chris, what's up, dude? He said, I just told him some stories. I told him the things that I did when I was a kid. Man, that's nothing compared to what I did. Thanks so much, Chris. This was a teachable moment, and you missed it. This woman was in a moment. She was caught. And the religious leaders, they caught her. Now, when I say they caught her, it means they really caught her in the act, because adultery was a serious thing. It was a capital punishment involved in that. But you had to make sure you caught them. You couldn't just say, well, I saw her walk in the room and I saw him walk out, so I know they committed adultery. No, you actually had to see them in the act. And you had to have at least 2 witnesses, and they had to agree perfectly in testimony. No divergent from the truth. They had to share exactly what they saw. So for this woman to be caught in the very act of adultery was an amazing thing. But these guys executed it perfectly. It looks like they were trying to do the right thing, until you realize something was missing. Do you see what's missing from the story? Where's the man? Where's the guy? If she was in the act, he was there. And if they caught her in the act of adultery, and they must have set it up, right? Because you don't just catch someone in the act. You've got to maybe even prearrange this meeting, prearrange this act. And they caught her in the act. They bring her to the temple. They set her before Jesus. They go, we can finally shut him up. He's got to deal with this. But we know they're not looking for justice. Because if they were looking for justice, they would have brought the man also. But they just brought her. They didn't see her as a person. She was an object. She was someone who was going to catch Jesus and trap Jesus. He was going to at least shut him up for a few minutes as he dealt with it, but they were hoping even further that they could actually have him in a trap. They said, in the law of Moses, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, Jesus, what do you say? They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. They had him. If Jesus said, let her go, they'd say, this rabbi is breaking the law of Moses, because she was caught in the act. They had witnesses. They saw it. They caught her. They bring her in. They throw her down. They put her in front. And they said, we caught her in the act. We have 2 witnesses. It's time to do justice. What do you say, Jesus? If he says, let her go, he's guilty of breaking Mosaic law. If he says, stone her, Jesus, friend of sinners, not so much. Even more, if he says, stone her, we don't see it here, but in Roman law at this time, The Romans had taken away capital punishment for religious reasons away from the Jewish people. That was reserved for the Romans to execute. And so if he said, stone her, he was no longer a friend of sinners, and he was also breaking the law. So he was stuck. If he says, let her go, breaking the law. If he says, stone her, breaking the law. They've got him. Done deal. Finally shut this guy up. But I love what Jesus does. He ignores them. It's all commotion. Remember, everyone is there. Not just the people coming to temple, but people from all over the world are coming together back for this festival, back to celebrate. They're in the temple hearing Jesus wow the crowds. They're amazed by him. And now a woman is set before them. They don't see this normally in the temple courts. She's got a blanket over her probably. Here's a mess. She's there. She's caught. Oh my gosh, I've heard about that woman. They finally caught her. Jesus, what do you say? And Jesus ignores them. It says that Jesus bent down and starts writing in the sand. I would have never thought of that. But Jesus, in the middle of a situation, stops and bends down. He didn't react with anger. He didn't yell at the crowd. He didn't yell at her. He simply bent down. And then he starts writing in the sand. And we don't know what he's writing in the dirt. Some have said, I think he was writing down the names of all the people who were there. I see Jerry, I see John, I see Jeff, I see Rob. There's Chase. And he's writing it down. Others say, I think what he was doing is that he was writing down their sins. Greed, pride, adultery, just like her. Writing down all their sin in the dirt. Others say, I think he was just stalling for time. Whatever it was, he took the focus off of her and put it down on himself. When they kept on questioning him, Jesus stands up. He straightens up and he said to them, let any one of you who is without sin be the first one to throw a stone. Notice he doesn't say, hey guys, don't execute her. He stands up and he makes eye contact with them. Looking at every one of them, making eye contact. And then saying directly to them, let any one of you who don't have sin in your life, you be the first one to throw the stone. He's basically saying, guys, you're right. She's caught. She's guilty. We can stone her, but let's do it right. Where are the witnesses? He didn't say what I would say, where's the guy? But he says, where are the witnesses? And since you're the witness, you'll be the first one to act because you saw it. But even more so, let the person without sin be the one to throw that stone. Jesus began to expose to them their sin. Without saying it, he didn't do what I would have done. I would have, prime moment, hey John, you're just like her, so why don't you come get in line here because you're next. He simply looked at them and said, let the person without sin throw the first stone. He exposed what we live with here in 2022. I'm really good at judging your sin. I can fix your sin. I can give you a way out of it. I can tell you what you need to do because that's really gross what you do. The fact that you sin like that, that's terrible. I can't believe you do that. I would never do that. I've got my own, but I'm not going to tell you my own. Because mine, you'd look at it and say, that's so gross. How can you do that? I can't believe you do that. I'm glad I don't struggle with that. We all have our own sin. And other people's sin looks much worse from our point of view until we're honest and say, you know what? I can't believe I'm stuck like this. woman was stuck. We don't know her background, but she may have been like us, desperately wanting not to live this lifestyle anymore, but find herself stuck there. I don't know where you're stuck. I don't know what addiction, what consequences, what just place where you feel like I can't get out of this. But Jesus said, let it, anyone of you without sin throw the first stone. And then he bent back down again and started writing again. He doesn't intimidate them. That's what I would do. He doesn't embarrass them. He simply exposes on their own, in their own private mind, the darkness they have in their own life. And we know it's effective because it said at this, those who heard him began to go away. One at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Everyone's looking at Jesus. They're thinking in their own mind, oh my gosh, you know what? I've been stuck too. I don't think they've had to come to Jesus moment yet where they're going, you know, you're right. I need to ask for forgiveness. I'll forgive this person. They just realize I can't throw a stone because I'm guilty. And around the courtyard, you begin to hear thud, 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 rocks falling. It says the older ones first. That's because we who are older, we know how much we don't know yet. I was so much smarter 20 years ago. I now realize how much I don't know. Wait till you see me in 20 years. I'll be amazing how much I don't know now. But the older ones go first. They said, you know what? You're right. Guilty. Actually, the verb is they began to go away, and it's a continuous action. It means they kind of kept going away. Started with a crowd with a bunch of rocks ready to kill this woman. Ended with a bunch of rocks on the ground, and them walking away and leaving because they realize that they have sinned too. Jesus straightened up, and he asked this incredible question. He says, woman. Now we hear woman, you might think, well, that's kind of derogatory. Woman, why did he say woman? Well, it's actually a term of endearment. Remember who he also called woman? His mom. He called mom woman because it's a term of endearment in this society. He looks at her and he sees her. I mean, really sees her. And says, woman. He says, woman, where are they? Before I bent down, they were all here with rocks. Where are they? Did Jesus know the answer to the question? Yes. So why did he ask the question? Because he wanted her to hear the question. He said, woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She answers, no one, sir. The word sir is an amazing word also. Like being woman, this term of endearment, sir is the word that we get Lord from. He says, kurios, Lord, no one. And Jesus simply says, then neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin. Notice he didn't say, it's okay, don't worry about it. You know, you're doing the best you can. It's not really that big of a deal. Do whatever you want. I love you. It's okay. He doesn't say you're not guilty. It's assumed because she knows that she's guilty. She was caught in the act. But he says, I don't condemn you. She was living not in guilt. She was living in shame. Have you been in shame before? Shame's a horrible place to live. Shame is what the devil does when he makes something look so good, whether it's bad calories, bad relationships, bad words, bad actions, whatever he makes look so good, like, you know what, you need that. You deserve that. You should have that. Do that. It's okay. God will he'll deal with it. You need this. You must have this. Look how good this is. And you say, okay. But it's not much longer. You go, oh man, that hurts my stomach. That hurts my head. That hurts my heart. I wish I wouldn't have done that. I'm guilty. I feel guilty. You think that would be enough? That'd be deep enough of a pit to be guilty. But the enemy wants to take you beyond guilt and move you into a place called shame. Shame is where you feel so bad about who you are. Not just about what you've done, but who you are. You'll find yourself asking questions like, how can I ask God for forgiveness again? I asked him for forgiveness yesterday and the day before. I'm stuck. I'm no good. I'm worthless. I don't even like myself. Why would he like me? And so I'm going to live in this shame of I'm not good enough, so I won't even go back and talk to him again. The enemy longs to make it look so good that you do it, that you feel guilty, and eventually you feel so separated from him that you don't want to ever go back. So it was a good thing the woman got caught. It was a good thing my son got caught. It's a good thing that I get caught because it exposes what's really there. But Jesus wants to remove shame. He becomes a scapegoat and says, I don't condemn you. Remember, Jesus said, let him who's without sin cast the first stone. Who was the only one in that crowd who was without sin? The one writing on the ground. But he says, I don't condemn you either. Go and sin no more. He doesn't say, don't worry about it. You know what? You're doing your best. He actually says, go and sin no more, which means he believed that it was possible for her to go and not sin. That he was going to give her strength and walk with her in a way that she could live a new life. Free from shame, free from guilt, free in a new place that would, like a kid in a room, the crack of the door with a light that comes in and there's no longer darkness there. I can rest. I've never felt this before. Tomorrow was coming for this woman. Tomorrow, Jesus wouldn't be in town probably. The crowd that dropped the rocks, they'd still be there. We know those kind of bullies, right? They're going to come back and say things like, oh, you're so lucky you got away. They felt convicted today, but tomorrow they may not feel convicted anymore. They're going to bring all kinds of shame and heap it on her, and Jesus wanted to give her a new life. Her husband very well may have walked away from her after that. She still had to deal with the people, but he wanted to give her hope. He wanted to give her freedom. Jesus loves the woman, and then he starts teaching again. And it says this, when Jesus spoke again to the crowd, to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Jesus was saying, I'm the light of the world. In the same way that I was light for this woman, I'm the light of the world for you. There's different kinds of light. There's a floodlight that lights everything up and you see a football field. There's an interrogation light that shines on you and asks you hard questions, like they were asking Jesus, what do you do with this woman who was caught in the act of adultery? What do you say, Jesus? What do we do? I want to stone her. What do you think? But there's also a light that's like a lamp that brings clarity. And there's a light like a flashlight that shows your next step on a dark path. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. 3 things I want to share with you that light does, and we'll close up today. The first is that light exposes and uncovers. That's a great gift. That light exposes and uncovers. Jesus said, let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. He was exposing and uncovering to them the sin that was in their own life. Because I treat sin like a kid at a pool with a beach ball. And I try to hide that sin under the water and hold that beach ball down and hope that it doesn't come out. The beach ball always comes up. And it's a good thing that it comes up. Because sin that's exposed shows us where we're really at, shows me the guilt that I have. But not in order to move me to shame, but to move me to him who gives me freedom. Who says, I'm the scapegoat. Put your sin upon me. I offer you forgiveness. Light exposes and uncovers. The second thing light does is that light guides and directs. He said to her, woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? He wanted to give her direction for a new life. He wanted to guide her. And his light, the light of the world, would give her the ability to take the next step, when tomorrow came, and it would come with all kinds of harshness, but he wanted to guide her and direct her. That's what light does. And the third thing light does, that light brings life. Light gives life. Life brings light. He said to her, "Go now, leave your life of sin." He wanted to offer her a new beginning, a new start, a fresh start. Now, for us sitting here, we may not have been caught in the act of adultery, brought to a temple, but we have our own story. And if I heard your story today, if you heard my story, you'd realize that there's a sense of stuckness, wondering if I'll ever get out of this, wondering if I can ever actually break free. Jesus says, "I'm the light of the world. I want to expose and uncover, guide and direct, and give you a new life." But hear this. That's John's story. In Matthew's gospel, he writes to an audience and he says this, where Jesus had said in John, "I'm the light of the world." In Matthew, he records when Jesus said to the people, "You are the light of the world." He looked at them, the disciples, and he said, "You are the light of the world." He is the light of the world, but he's not saying you also are. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. He says, "I'm the light of the world." And the way that I brought light to this woman, to this crowd, now you're the light of the world. And I want to shine through you that you might make this an occurrence in your life. That's why Anthem exists, because there are people who are living in darkness like a little kid in a bedroom saying, "I'm scared of what I can't see in the closet." And God calls us to come in and be light. It doesn't take a lot of light to move darkness away. A little light changes darkness. It's no longer darkness when there is a bit of light. Jesus says, "You're the light of the world." A light isn't put under a bowl. It's put on a stand so it can be a light. It's still a light when it's covered up, but it's not fulfilling its purpose. So he's saying, "I want you to be the light of the world. You are the light of the world. I want you to expose and uncover, guide and direct. And I want you, as I work through you, to bring light, bring life." So where are you in the story? It was a crazy day at the temple. That's something they remember the rest of their lives. Are you in the story anywhere? Some of you say, "You know what? Yep, I'm that woman. That's me. I'm stuck. I can't get out of this. I got caught. I've been getting caught. I'm trying to stay hidden, but eventually it's going to be exposed that I'm a fake. I'm stuck. I'm not where I want to be. I want to be different, but I'm stuck." Jesus, light of the world, says, "I want to give you life." You might say, "You know what? If I'm honest, Scott, I'm a religious guy. And I'm the guy with the rock in my hand. Because what she did was wrong, and it's got to be punished." But now I've realized that I need forgiveness like she needs forgiveness. And I'd love to get to the place where my hand relaxes and I let the rock fall. My place in the story, at this place in my life, I'm on the outskirts. I'm part of the group that came to the temple, and I'm watching it all happen. I don't have a rock because I'm not going to throw a rock at someone. That'd be terrible to do. I'll do that in other ways by what I think and what I say, but I'm not going to throw a rock. But I'm there watching it happen, doing nothing. Jesus said, "You're the light of the world. I want to work through you to bring hope." So I'd love you to think this week, where are you at in the story? And where does Jesus want to meet your need? Because he loved every one of those people. He loved the woman. Crazy, he loved the people who had the rocks in their hand. I don't like them. He loved them. And he loves people like you and me who are on the outside watching, going, "I'm going to just do the right thing but not get involved." He says, says, no, I want you to be the light of the world. Let me pray for us. God, thanks for today. Thank you that you are here and working in ways that we see and don't see. I thank you for your peace that drives away fear. I thank you that you long to give us life. In this moment as we close, I just want to give you a moment to talk to God on your own. Let him know where you're at. Let him know where you need help. He knows where you need help, but he wants you to be able to say it so you can realize it. God, thanks for knowing us and loving us. Thank you for this story that reminds us that you are the light of the world. Be the light of our life, God. Exposing and uncovering and bringing us life that we need. In Jesus' name.